Memphis is the home of the blues, rock and roll, and Earle Farrell.
From the Collierville Square to the mighty Mississippi, the Earle Farrell for Memphis show is all about good things that happen across the Bluff City and the people who make Memphis cool.
The Earle Farrell for Memphis show is made possible by our title sponsor, Southern Security Federal Credit Union, and by Kathy Thurman Edwards, State Farm Insurance.
Plus, Diane Kimbrough, Lady Di, your insurance PI. Also by Dive Shop and Dive Ventures nationwide. Jim Karras Chevrolet with George Gully. Napa Cafe Memphis and Glenda Hastings. Phoenix Unequaled Home Entertainment. For Memphis Magazine. The Live at the Garden Concert Series. And the Orpheum Theater Group Memphis. Thank you to all the sponsors for making this possible.
And now, coming to you from Lansky Brothers, Clothier to the King, inside the world-famous Peabody Hotel, with the heart of a cowboy and Memphis in his soul. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your host, Earle Farrell.
And thank you very much, and welcome into the world-famous Peabody Hotel inside Lansky's, right off the lobby. And with us today, a very special guest who makes the Peabody Hotel what it is, the general manager, Doug Browne. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Well, thank you, Earle. I got to say something about that jacket. That is gorgeous. Where do you get that?
Well, I got a guy I know.
You got a guy. You got a guy.
I got a guy. Of course, it's a Lansky's jacket. I wear a different one for every show, and I cannot tell you how many compliments I've had on my wardrobe of late since we started the show. And clothes really do make the man.
Oh, definitely.
And so, what a career you have had. I went back and looked at your background, and where were you born?
Well, first of all, my career is because I was just lucky and at the right place at the right time.
Well, I believe in luck up to a point, but not like you've had.
Well, I was born in California, in Roseville, California, but raised in the Caribbean islands. So I really call the Caribbean kind of home because I grew up in the islands.
Well, you were almost in the islands, being in the West Coast, but then when you moved to the Caribbean, it's a totally different world. Is that where you got involved in the hospitality business? Because that's what those islands exist on.
So my parents were in the military. And towards the end of their career, my father became friends with this guy. I think his name was Lawrence Rockefeller.
Oh, yeah.
And they became buddies, and Lawrence Rockefeller wanted to open hotels in the Caribbean. And this was back in the late 1950s. So together, and my mother, they opened, the first hotel was Dorado Beach in Puerto Rico. And then they opened a hotel on the island of St. John, Conneaut Bay. And then they opened one on the island of Virgin Gorda, Little Dix Bay. These are all five-star hotels. They're all now part of Rosewood Hotels, which are all five-star hotels. So I really had the hardship of growing up in these five-star resorts. When I became a senior in high school, I thought, I want to be a veterinarian, a large animal veterinarian. I loved horses, loved to ride. I thought I wasn't smart enough. So I thought, let me go into the hotel business. And because I loved what my parents did, that's what I did.
You know, we lived in Mexico growing up. My dad built pipelines, and we lived in Mexico and in Canada. And we lived in Mexico. We stayed at the Grand Sierra Hotel for about 6 months until we found a home to rent for the time of the completion of the pipeline. And so we lived in a five-star hotel.
It's tough, isn't it?
It is. It pretty much spoils you for the rest of your life because you had 5 people waiting on every table, and if you took a patty of butter and put it on something, there was another patty there before you could get the one on your bread. But it was. I learned more about doing things the right way and the proper way and etiquette. It was incredible upbringing.
I got to tell you a funny story. So my son, who's now 32 years old, he grew up a good part of his life living in hotels because I was general manager. And back in the old days, you lived in the hotel. So as a kid, he was 5, 6 years old, and we'd get up every Sunday morning and we'd go watch cartoons together. And we'd order room service. So I'd go to San Antonio, Texas, to open the Westin Riverwalk, and that was our first time to buy a house and live out. He was probably 7, 8 years old. And Sunday morning, he comes and he taps me on the shoulder and he says, this is about 6 in the morning. He says, Dad, let's go watch cartoons and order room service. And I look over at my wife and I said, Dakota, room service is still asleep. And that was his rude awakening that not all households had room service.
And not only was it asleep, it's over.
It's over.
Your career has been, because you went to all these incredible places, and I think people in other countries expect better service than many people in America do. I mean, people in America go, okay, we don't have any of that. Well, in Europe and other places that I've experienced, the service, because these are professional people. That's their job, is to do this every day for the rest of their lives. In this country, so many people in certain areas, the people come and go. What I love about the Peabody is I've known people that have worked here their entire careers. Some of your Bell people, I mean, I've known one guy here 30 years, and they stay. And this is a family. It really is a family.
Our
of people.
average tenure is around 15 years.
Wow.
And our turnover is just under 11%, and our management turnover is under 2%. So there's very little turnover in the hotel. But it's a great industry, and you're right. It's funny, I just got back from Singapore. I was there for a conference, and the service was through the roof. It's just, but part of it is, in the U.S., we don't think of, the U.S. has this thought that people in the hotel industry aren't real careers, which really amazes me, because some of our cocktail servers and bartenders, they're making $80,000, $90,000 a year. That's not a bad wage.
No. Well, we were in Atlanta, and we stayed at the what's the hotel? The Ritz-Carlton. My wife.
She remembered.
Well, that was why we were there. She was with the country. I was with News. We stayed at the Motel 6, and so we're at the Ritz. And
she elevated your...
Yes, in many ways. In many ways.
You married up.
Yes, absolutely. And so we got there, and the bell captain, I asked him where something was. He said, "Follow me, sir." And they take you. And then I was talking to him. I said, "Are you in college?" He said, "No, I graduated 2 years ago." He said, "But I'm making so much money here at the Ritz." I said, "I couldn't find a job anywhere I was making anywhere close to it." He said, "A place like the Ritz, if you're good at what you're doing, you can make a career out of it and make a lot of money." And it's very satisfying, because the people are so unbelieving when they see that kind of service, that they're so appreciative. He said, "Man, they're peeling all hundreds." And so that is, you're providing something that people normally don't ever come in contact with. And that's what happens here at the Peabody.
Well, about 7 years ago, I got my master's degree at the University of Memphis. And one of our bartenders was in my master's classes. And she graduated same time I did. So after she graduated, I went up to her, saw her behind the bar, and I said, are you leaving us? Am I going to lose you? And she says, "Are you kidding? Where am I going to make this kind of money?" She's still here today. That was 7 years ago. She got her master's degree. And
you've been here how long, 10?
22 years.
22?
23 this year.
Wow. We have a very good friend I talked to on the way over here, Danny Summerall.
Yes.
And
Danny is a jewel.
Isn't he? And I've been friends with him almost 40 years. More than 40, because I moved here in 78 from Dallas and met him. He was working at Captain Bilbo's, which was an incredible place. In fact, Pat Register, who's coming on after you, that's where I met him. He was 12 years old, playing the sax in an MVP band, and lied about his age to get in there.
But he looks young.
He's only 22. But it is...
Don't believe everything Danny Summerall says about me now.
No, he says... Well, then it was all good, so you don't want to...
Okay, then keep it.
In fact, we were talking, I was saying the research I did on you, that you're a pilot.
I am.
You got your master's. You speak several languages.
I do.
You've lived all over the world.
I dance.
And you're a ballroom dancer and play the piano. And he goes, "The guy is James Bond." That's who this guy really is. He's probably every night late doing some kind of spy thing that we don't even know about. But he says you're just... and a very fun guy, too. He said he's a blast to be around. So, what more good could you say about anybody?
A funny story about the James Bond thing. So somehow that got around the dance world.
So it does exist.
It does exist. It got around the dance world. And I'm in Las Vegas at the World Championship, and the MC started saying, "Okay, James Bond has just, walked out on the dance floor." Well, I hadn't checked in yet. We went and we danced because I was waiting on my room, and so I'm changing in the bathroom, in the public restrooms to get ready. Well, I finally check in. Would you believe that my room number was 20007? That was the suite they put me in. I mean, could it get any better than that?
It must be. I mean, I remember the TV series about the hotel in San Francisco.
Yeah. Great
and
series.
I always wondered, it made it seem so glamorous.
It's not like that at all.
Well, with people I know that are in it, especially the people that have worked here, the Peabody goes back a long way with Kathy and I. Gary Bells was a good friend of mine and his wife, Shelley. And they threw an engagement party for us. We got engaged. And they gave us the Romeo and Juliet suite here at the Peabody for a wedding present. And so that's how far back. Before that, I was going to the parties on the roof on Thursday nights.
But you don't look that old.
Yeah, believe me.
She's you're what, 25?
Yeah. I should have been shot back then when I was dating her, but somehow I got away with it. But it is, and when I moved here in '78, it was boarded up.
Yeah.
I remember driving by and I said, "Oh, how sad." And then when Gary and I became friends, and if you know Gary, you know why we were probably
I know
friends.
Gary. Been to his house out in California.
And he said, "Come on, we're going to buy the Peabody and fix it up." And she brought me into the lobby, and there was just one light stand with a light on it, and nothing was in the concrete floors. I said, "It's going to take a lot of work, Gary." He goes, "Yeah, millions."
Yeah.
But what the Bells family did, not just for the hotel, but for Memphis, has been incredible. I mean, it's a huge influence on bringing downtown Memphis back again.
You know, I for actually the Bells, for what they've done for all of us. You know, we have close to 550 associates, and they care about every one of them. They ask about them. They're very involved. Not involved from a managing, but more how are things going? How can we help? What can we do for you? I remember during the pandemic in 2020, Jack Bells called me every week just to see how I was. He never asked, how's the hotel or are we losing a lot of money? He never asked, how are you? How's the team? Which is it just shows the heart that they have.
They really do. I mean, very, very nice people, kind, considerate, and I have another friend, Taylor Carruthers, who's in the real estate reappraisal business. You get appraised for your property values, and
right.
then you say that's way too high. You hire his company, and he fixes it. And the Bells were all in a big meeting. They want him to check on some piece of property somewhere in the United States and say, let us know who owns that. So he calls him back. He goes, you do it. Jack goes, I thought we did. But the people don't realize that they're not just in Memphis. They're all over the eastern seaboard.
Yeah,
and involved in a lot of different things. One thing he's involved in right now, as you are, is the renovation of all the rooms here at the Peabody after last year doing the lobby.
We are. We'll spend probably over the next, between last year and this year and everything we're doing, probably close to $25-30 million.
Wow.
On all the things that we're doing. We started with the elevators. We completely redid all 12 elevators in the hotel and modernized them and gave them brains. They're smarter than me now.
Could you help me out?
It didn't take much, but we did a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Our air handlers and all our behind the scenes stuff, our boilers, things that aren't pretty and
nobody ever sees.
No one ever sees, but they affect your stay in a big way. And then we did the lobby, and one big thing change in the lobby was that we expanded the size of the bar. And while it was only 3 feet, it's amazing how 1.5 feet on either side, when I told Marty and Ron and Jack that it would allow us to add a third bartender, and a third bartender meant more money, they were like, okay, we can do that. But so we redid all of the lobby. We've redone Shea. Shea's been completely redone. And by the way, Shea, 2 years in a row, #1 hotel restaurant, USA Today. So we're excited about that. Great team. Keith, our chef in there, is incredible. And now we're doing the guest rooms, and we are finishing up the 6th floor at the end of May in next week. And we'll then, I think, I believe we're going to try to take out 3 floors. We're trying to move faster. We want to get done by September. So,
wow, that's rapid for remodeling.
And the rooms alone, that's about $18 million.
Wow.
Just on the rooms.
For people that have stayed here before, what differences will they see in checking into the Peabody in the renovated rooms versus what's been here for a while?
Well, it's actually basically all the way down to the drywall or studs. So we're touching everything in the guest room. So new color schemes, new TVs, beds, everything is new in the room. So you won't recognize anything that you saw before.
When people come and stay here,
and by the way, your Romeo and Juliet, we're actually redoing them finally in a way that isn't as awkward as they were before. They were very cool, but they weren't really, people friendly. If you remember that skinny staircase? Can you imagine coming home drunk? Having to go up that staircase.
No, I lived it.
You lived it. So you did it.
I did it. Yes.
You told me you didn't drink.
Yeah.
Oh.
We've been talking about something else. Or somebody else.
Today.
So far today. But it is just being here, the few weeks we've been doing the show here, the people that come in here, and they come here from all over the world.
They do.
And the first thing they say is, we love Memphis. Is that the reaction you get from most of your guests?
All the time. And it's part of how we train our staff, our team. There's hotels all over the world. And you go into hotels. When you went to the Ritz-Carlton that you went to, it's a Ritz-Carlton. You expect it to be nice. You have certain level. It's got to be clean. The service has got to be good and everything else. But people who are coming to the Peabody have an even greater expectation. They've heard about this hotel. They've dreamed about it. Some people saved up money just to come and stay at the hotel. We're not cheap. And so we have to wow them when they come in, which, by the way, we have a program called the WOW program. And you mentioned the bells. They thought I was smoking something weird when I came up with the idea of this. But we came up, I think it's going on like 10, 12, 14 years now. But I went to the bells and I said, look, we're gonna implement a program. It's going to be called the WOW program. And what it basically is that any associate can spend up to $250 to make a guest happy. And
wow.
Jack and Ron looked at me and said, have you lost your mind? Right? And I said, no. And they said, well, let's consider it. I said, no, I'm not asking you. We've already implemented it. It's already done. And so it's funny because our hourly associates are much more frugal than I am, or Kelly. We'll go for the high expensive stuff, but they'll really think it through and they'll be very creative. One of my favorite stories, if we've got time, is in the health club. We had an associate, and this young lady arrived, a hotel guest, and she checks in, and she goes down, and she's walking around the hotel, and she goes into the health club. And she looks in there, and she goes, wow, this is a great health club for a hotel. And it actually really is. It's much larger than most, and it's very nice. It's got a pool down there. And she's like, gosh, I wish I had brought my workout clothes. And he said, oh, that's too bad. And he said, all right, did you just check in? And she said, yes. And he said, well, what's your name? And got her name, and she walked out. He immediately calls the front desk. He says, hey, who checked in so-and-so? And they said, oh, we did. And he said, what size do you think she is? And so they brought her up on camera, and we think she's probably a size 4 and everything else. And one of them said, well, I'll run up and I'll check her room for her shoe size. And so they put in her room tennis shoes, socks, workout pants or whatever it was, and a shirt with a little card saying, welcome, now you can come visit me in the health club, signed by the guy's name.
Wow.
I mean, this lady went crazy. Now, it cost us maybe $150, $200, but she's told everybody in the world about this story, and she got a good workout in.
And a great story.
And she probably was hungry and then went and ate.
And we got restaurants here.
Yeah.
I guess the pride factor, though, is because it's not just people from out of the country that come here and are wowed. It's all of those of us who live here that come to weddings, that come to other celebrations, to meetings here. I often say it's like going to Versailles. There is no place I know of. And people used to say if you go to the Hermitage in Nashville, it's like the Peabody. It ain't nothing like the Peabody.
No, very different hotels.
Very different. This is, it really is like going to Europe. And we were at a wedding here in the Grand Ballroom recently. And I said, just look at this place. I said, this and the Orpheum Theater are two incredible places to be right here in Memphis, Tennessee. We're very, very
Have you
fortunate.
interviewed Brett Patterson yet?
Brett is one of my sponsors.
Yeah, I used to be on his board. He kicked me off.
No,
I wasn't donating enough money.
He'll get you back.
Yeah.
No, in fact, he's coming on here for their first Broadway show.
Tell him I said that.
I will, and he'll have a quick comeback too. I can promise.
He actually arranged, Kelly. He arranged. We got an award thanks to him. He helped.
For being stars in the industry, something like that. For being a
But what's theater? What's their award? It's a
touring Broadway award.
touring Broadway award. Yeah, we got an award from Broadway.
Because so many of the people that appear at the
Yeah, they
Orpheum
come
stay
here, and we take care of them. And
I remember the story of one of the actors who was in I Am a King, the Yul Brynner.
Oh, yeah.
Stayed here for a month, and he had a suite of rooms. They completely painted him brown. His favorite color was brown. Whose favorite color is brown? But his was. And the Peabody painted his room and, met every one of his demands, which were a lot. But that's the kind of thing you guys do that most people never realize that goes on here. People have special needs, and you guys try to accommodate
you
them.
can sit in this lobby and at any given time see a star come by. I've got an Oprah story. We had.
I remember when she was here.
Yeah, it was on a Monday morning. My phone rings, and our phones behind the scenes, it tells us who's calling so that we can answer it and call them by name. And it says Oprah Winfrey, and I'm thinking I would know if Oprah's staying in the hotel. And so I answer the phone. Executive office, this is Doug. How may I help you? And the person on the other end says, this is Gail. And I said, Gail, how are you? And I'm thinking somebody's playing a joke on me because I'm a jokester and I'm always playing jokes on everybody. And so Gail says, Oprah would like to be honorary duckmaster.
Wow.
And I said, oh, well, let me, I've got to get with Kelly and check availability and everything, but, we'll see if we can work it out. She says, well, we have a problem. This is where I thought they're playing a joke on me. She says, she can't be there at 11. Can you delay the march? And I quickly said, absolutely not. The march happens at 11 and at 5, and we don't delay the march. And she said, oh, well, let me get with Oprah, and I'll get back to you. So I hang up. I run up to the front desk. I get on the computer because I want to see whose code is on there because I know someone's playing a joke on me, and I'm going to get them back. Well, everybody at the desk is like, oh, no, VIP Services is all over it. They're taking care of her. They've sent flowers, monogram robes, the whole bit. I wasn't worried about VIP Service. I was worried about who's playing the joke on me. And so I run back down. Gail calls back and says, Oprah's rearranged her schedule. She's going to be honorary duckmaster.
Wow.
And you can YouTube it. It's on YouTube, right? But I wanted to meet Oprah at the end of it. So the march happens. Oprah marches. And so I walk up to Oprah and I said, hi, I'm Doug. I'm president of the Peabody. And just wanted to welcome you. You were honored that you're here. And she said, oh, Doug, I can't believe that on a Monday morning, because we always have 400 or 500 people at our march. She said, I can't believe you got this many people out to see me for the march. And I said, oh, Oprah, I'm so sorry. They're not here to see you. They're here to see the ducks.
That was funny. I was talking to your duck master,
Keenan.
And he was telling me a story because we had Jason D on the other day.
Right.
He said years ago, Jerry Lee Lewis is with some other big star, and they're coming down the elevators. Oh, he's with the duck master. And he comes out the elevators, and he goes, Memphis still loves me. Look at all these people that have come to see me. And the duck master goes, they came to see the ducks, Jerry Lee. Which is every day. Every day we're here. It's a huge crowd. And they're always mesmerized by it. There's nobody sitting around kind of leaning back looking at the sun. They're watching the ducks and the duck master and watching that. And what an incredible, unique part of a hotel. Nobody else in the world has it.
No, and it's going on now almost 90 years. How many years? 90 years.
90 years,
Yeah.
amazing, and
Crazy.
it's still so good. And I think it's all because
And we've had times that the power's gone out downtown. March still happened at
Wow.
11. They were hand carried down during 2020.
yeah.
During 2020, Kelly was our duck master, but we did the march every day, even when we had no guests.
You still did it.
We marched them, and
Well, it's a great thing about the Peabody with so many great things. Doug Browne, I thank you so much. Kelly maybe promised not to keep you too long.
oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having us, and thanks for doing it here.
Well,
Yeah.
when I came up with the idea, in fact, Paul Chandler, who's just leaving GPAC to come downtown and be part of the River program, he said, that is a genius idea. Who came up with that? I said, well, I know this is going to be hard for you to believe, but it was me. And he said, that is hard to believe. But he said, that's still a genius idea.
Yeah.
Well, you're the most iconic building in Memphis.
No, well, thank you.
And Lansky's is certainly a huge, part of Memphis history and continues to be so. So this is the coolest place in
And
town.
you know, Hal has really carried on from his daughter, or from his daughter, from his dad,
Yeah.
Bernard, who is just the greatest character.
He really was. I got to do a video biography for their family because they wanted Bernard to tell the story. So I got to spend a couple of months with him and the whole family. And he truly was a truly unique person. And Hal and Julie are both carrying on the tradition
Yeah.
fabulously. So, well, continue.
Julie's a
your-
lot cuter than Hal is.
and much friendlier.
Yes.
I keep asking Hal, what about an employee discount? He keeps going, huh?
Yeah.
But thank you, Doug.
Oh, thank you for having
We
us.
appreciate
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
We'll have you back, talk about the holidays or whatever special things coming up.
You got it. And I got a lot more crazy stories.
That's what I was going to say.
Most of them are clean.
It's okay. We can beep you.
Okay.
We're going to be right back after a word from our sponsor. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Dawn Grader, President and CEO of Southern Security Federal Credit Union. We're the proud title sponsor of the Earle Farrell for Memphis show, coming to you live from Lansky's in the world-famous Peabody Hotel and celebrating all of the great things about our great city, Memphis, Tennessee.
Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I'm so proud to be part of the Earle Farrell for Memphis show, streaming live from Lansky's from the Peabody. We will be showcasing not only Napa Cafe, but some great restaurants around town. We look forward to seeing you.
Hi, everyone. It's Diane Kimbrough, Lady Di, your insurance PI. And I'm here to tell you about the new podcast that Earle Farrell from Memphis is doing. And we're doing it downtown live from the Peabody, which is behind me and next to the Rendezvous. And we're going to be talking all things Memphis, but we're also going to be talking about health insurance because that applies to everyone. And I can help you in every area. So I look forward for you listening to us and learning more about what we can do for you in Memphis and how I can help you with your health.
Hello, Memphis Mid-South. And first, I'd like to thank you for visiting with Earle Farrell Memphis today. And we want to support him just like you do. I'm George Gully, one of the sales managers at Jim Carey Chevrolet. We've been in business here in Memphis for over 75 years. I've been associated with the company for almost 25. And I'll help you find the right car, truck, or SUV here at not only our Chevy store, but also Buick, GMC, Nissan, Subaru. We can help you find that right car. Keep watching Earle and come see me. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Kathy Thurman Edwards, State Farm, and I'm so excited to be one of the sponsors for the Earle Farrell from Memphis show, broadcasting live from Lansky's at the Peabody. And I'll tell you all about what we've got going on at our office. Gift cards for quotes. No purchase necessary. I'm better looking than a lizard.
Hi, this is Randy Wright from the Dive Shop and Dive Ventures in Memphis. We've been in Memphis over 64 years teaching people to dive, snorkel, and swim. We'd love to have you come join us and have some fun. We're also a part of the Dive Ventures group with 18 locations across the country, stretched from Phoenix to Vienna, Virginia. Please give us a call. We'll be able to take care of you at 999 South Yates in Memphis or call us at 901-763-DIVE.
Hi, I'm Brett Batterson, President and CEO of the Orpheum Theater Group in downtown Memphis. We are so pleased with our partnership with the Earle Farrell Show and very happy that he is broadcasting live from Lansky's at the historic Peabody Hotel. We're all here to make Memphis better.
Hi, my name is Jameson Todd, and I'm the director of Live at the Garden and the Radiance Amphitheater. And we're so excited for our 25th year of Live at the Garden here at the Memphis Botanic Garden. We've got a great lineup for you this season, so come on out.
Hi, I'm Olivia Wald, Director of Marketing and Communications for Memphis Botanic Garden and Live at the Garden. We've had Earle Farrell right along the way for the past 25 years, and we can't wait to talk more about the season this summer on the Earle Farrell for Memphis show.
So come out to Live at the Garden. Our first show is on June 21st.
Hi, my name is Scott Fueling. I'm president of Phoenix Communications here in Memphis. I'm really proud to support Earle Farrell's show, as is everybody else on the team. We love Memphis, and we love doing things to promote Memphis, and we can't wait for this to get started.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Pat Register and his band. Welcome to the show, Pat.
Hey, well, thank you so much. It's great to be here, Earl.
Rob, my associate, when he was getting the video down and putting it into the show, said these guys were great. He's been from New York, so he hadn't had a chance to see it, but he was totally blown away. We've always been blown away with you and your talent. We go to so many things, and there you are playing. We were the most recent Live at the Garden.
Live at the Garden announcement party. Yeah, I do that every year, and it's a great, event, and it's fun, and get to see people I don't see all the time, and I love it.
Well, somebody was talking about fixtures of Memphis. You are a fixture of Memphis, and we're so lucky to have you.
Thank you so much.
And we were talking yesterday about just the musicians in this town, which we're very rich in talent in this town.
Memphis is got such a plethora of talented musicians across the board in all different types of music too, all different types of music. So we don't just specialize in country or blues or jazz. It's just all over the board.
Let's go back and to when you first knew that you had something in you that needed to get out, and because
that's a long way back.
Yeah, but that really, all the people I've ever talked to that were very successful about something, they knew it early on.
Yeah, that was the case with me as well. My older brother played trombone. He's about 3 years older than me, and I was playing little instruments around the house, a little kid's keyboard and a little fake guitar, and my parents just knew off the bat that he's going to be doing something in the band. So my dad, being a high school teacher, went to the band director and said, "What do you think he ought to play? My other son's playing trombone." Well, he was a saxophone player. He said, "Get him a saxophone," and that's how it started. I had no control over that whatsoever, but it was a perfect fit. It really was.
Well, it turned out well for you.
Yeah, thank you.
I always thought that it looked like, although when I watch you play, it seems like just a part of you, like an extension of you.
Yeah, it is kind of that. I kind of just fell into it. It's just such a natural. I think saxophone is a pretty easy instrument to learn how to play, but it's a very difficult instrument to learn how to play well.
Yeah.
You have your, people that can play it in the band, but then to play professionally, it's kind of, there's a next level you have to get to.
Were you in the high school band?
Yeah. I started early. I started in the elementary school band. I was 10 years old, and by the time I was 14, I had my first professional gig.
Wow.
Yeah, I was making money at 14.
So was it MVP?
No. I wish.
Because that's where I first started. But,
yeah.
But you were that good, because that was obviously people said this kid's really good.
Yeah, I just picked it up and started playing, and then I was improvising right away. And next thing you know, we've got a little high school band that's playing little country club gigs, and then by 16, I was in a house band in downtown Louisville, Kentucky.
Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, I grew up in Louisville, and I fell into to some bands with some really great musicians. You know, one of the musicians, the saxophonist, ended up playing with Wynton Marsalis.
Wow.
Yeah, he went to Harvard and got into the scene in New York, and he's still doing major things in traditional jazz. His name's Don Braden, and then the band that I kind of took over for him when he went to school in Harvard. The band that he had in Louisville, two of the members came from Marvin Gaye's band.
Wow.
Yeah. So the drummer and the guitar player were in Marvin Gaye's touring band. So needless to say, they were great.
Yeah.
And I was this 16-year-old kid just trying. They actually called me the kid.
Yeah.
And I was just trying, flying by the seat of my pants and picking up everything I could.
But the fact that you were playing saxophone, because everybody in those days, it was guitars, drums. Very few kids or people trying to be in a garage band were playing a horn.
True.
I mean, which was always the great thing about Memphis sound, because there were always Memphis horns in the music here.
It's funny how I ended up here. It's really, I wasn't trying to come to Memphis. I didn't know anything about Memphis. I was playing in a band in South Florida. And as a matter of fact, it was Gary Goen, who's in Memphis now.
Yeah.
And just basically playing, top 40 music and dancing around the stage and stuff. And the horn player and I got a call from Memphis from Captain Bilbo's. And you talked about Danny Summerall.
Yep.
And he was one of my managers then, and they called us up. We came up here, and it was way closer to Louisville than South Florida.
Yeah.
So I said, this is a no-brainer. They offered us good money. It was like, okay, we're off to the races.
What a place that was. I called it Little Vegas, because it wasn't just
it was awesome,
a seafood place that was really good food. And a lot of places have bands, but the MVP, the house band, was phenomenal.
I was really fortunate to be involved in that situation. It was really great. We played 5 nights a week, rehearsed a couple of days a week. It was great. We had 2 weeks paid vacation. It was like a corporate gig, you know? But it gave me a chance to really settle down and do some other things and have a life. And, it was great honing your skills as well, because it was a show band.
Yeah.
You had to sing. You had to dance. You had to put on a show, whether you felt good, whether you didn't.
The show must go on.
The show had to go on, and we did some shows. We did some pretty awesome shows down there. And
how old were you then? Because that's when I first met you.
I was 20
when
I first moved here in 85. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I came when I was 28, and I was like you. I didn't know anybody here either.
Yeah.
And,
isn't that crazy?
It is. I came here, and I went, what an interesting place, because the people here, what I love about Memphians is they're only impressed if they're really impressed.
Right.
They're not easily impressed.
They're not easily impressed at all.
And if they like you, they like you.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they're not rude to you, but they don't sit around and chat with you.
No. You'll know.
Yeah, you'll know.
Once you get them, then you got them.
Yeah. But you got to deliver. I mean, and you really have to kind of prove yourself that you're legit.
You're so right. I mean, that's been the challenge, playing here, and it's good to be challenged like that, and it's like our friend was saying about the Justice Brothers. He's from New York area, and people from other parts of the country come and hear the music in Memphis, and they're just like blown away.
Yeah.
I was up till probably about a year ago was playing Thursday nights down at B.B. King's, and that's a big international night.
Sure.
And I would meet people from all over the world, all over the United States, Ireland, all over the UK, Europe, Asia, and the comments were always the same. It was like, this is amazing, We just came from Nashville. We just came from New Orleans, and Memphis has just got this soul about it,
And I hear that from people all the time, too, that people that come to the Orpheum to perform, come through on other kind of tours, and they say, we go all over the United States. And you come here, and everybody that they're associated with say that 2 things you got to do when you're in Memphis. You got to eat their food,
yes,
and you got to go hear their music.
We got good food.
And there really is no place like it in the country. New Orleans has great food, and they got jazz. But there's not a real divergence of music in New Orleans.
Correct.
Here, you can go out. There's probably 20 bars you can go to tonight on a Wednesday
Yeah,
night and
it's
hear
so
great
true.
live music.
Great
and,
music.
And local musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Does it, in a way, kind of disappoint you that somehow Nashville has become such a big recording thing? Because what I'm hearing is Austin is no longer what Austin used to be.
Uh-huh.
Nashville has gotten so commercialized.
What I've found through the grapevine, through the studio grapevine, is it's really driven by the imports from L.A. You know, the L.A. scene kind of moved into Nashville maybe 15 years ago. And they kind of took over and brought a lot of people with them.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that was the Memphis studio scene. You know, unfortunately, the jingle scene kind of started to fade about that time, you know.
Well, and it's faded everywhere, not just here. Let's talk a little bit about that, because that was one of your big
that was a
activities as well.
moment. I was playing at Captain Bilbo's and singing every night, and I'd met some people, and they'd asked me to come in and do some singing in the studio for some jingles. And I was like, oh, sure, this is great. A daytime gig, you know. And one of my idols, I would say, you know, big influences in during high school as a singer was Jimmy Jamison.
Yeah.
And I was going in the studio. Jimmy Jamison was coming out of the studio, met, shook hands, hey, man, have a good session, whatever. And I was just like, whoa, you know, that was one of my idols. Later, we became really great friends.
Super nice guy.
Great guy.
I asked him, I had him on my show about a year before he passed, and I said, when did you know you had finally made it? He goes, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. He said, I still don't think I've really, you know, when do you finish? There is no finish line in life.
Yeah.
You just keep on doing what you do. I remember he was doing a jingle for Phil Morgan.
Yeah.
And we're at the studio over off of Cooper, and I go in there, and he's sitting there, and that was really the first time I'd ever been around. Of course, I knew who he was.
Yeah.
And he was just totally unaffected by all the fame and the notoriety.
So
and
down to earth.
Yeah.
He is so down to earth.
And what an incredible voice.
Gosh.
I mean, is that for the people you've known in this business, in the music business, that really, really are talented, and the ones, and they seem to be the friendliest and to their fans and everybody else.
Really, that is the case. You know, it's very rare that I meet some of these really, really legendary stars that are not really what they seem on stage, you know, because they love what they're doing. They've had this phenomenal success, and I think they're grateful, you know. And I know definitely that's my kind of modus operandi is, you know, vitamin G, grateful all the time, you know.
Well, to be able to do what you do and be great at it and continue to be and grow with it.
Yeah.
I was the other night, we were at the announcement for Live at the Garden, who's all coming in. I'm always amazed when I sit and listen to you.
Thank you.
You did Let's Stay Together by Al Green. He's
Yeah.
one of my favorite artists. And I'm like, God, just listen to that guy. I mean, to be able to sing like that. When did you know you could sing?
Well, I was forced to sing. Not at gunpoint, but by survival instincts. I was still in Florida, down there with Gary Goen, and we had a week vacation. During that week vacation, our lead singer decided not to come back to the band. So in a desperate scramble to save our gigs, the band leader said, everybody's got to learn 3 songs.
Wow.
So the horn players picked up 3 songs, and that was it. You know, I learned those 3 songs, and I went out and sang them every night, and it was terrible. But I had my little Luther Vandross and Stevie Wonder cassette tapes that I would listen to every day and sing along with.
Wow.
And then that was just the start of it, and then it became, you know, practice and learning my craft through my vocals like I did through my saxophone.
It's your instrument.
Yeah. It's
like
a tough
fight?
instrument,
Yeah.
too. It's fickle. It's very fickle.
Well, it has been with me. I remember when we moved back from Canada as a kid, and I got back, the school year wasn't over yet, so they said, you got to take an elective. You can take art or choir. I said, what's the choir deal? They said, well, it's a cappella, and it's mixed. I said, so girls in there? And they said, yeah. I said, I'm taking the choir.
I'm in.
So I'm in there. And Mr. McDonald, still remember the choir director's name, and he's direct us, and we're singing whatever it was, Old Man River, and he goes, I'm hearing something over here in the bass section. You sing. And so this kid sing. They got to me and went, you're the problem.
No.
I thought it was pretty good. He said,
oh, gosh.
Look, just move your lips and hope you never get called on in competition.
Oh, gosh.
So every once in a while I'd still cheat and sing along with them. But it is, so you can learn to sing.
Yeah, you can.
That's amazing.
But the musical training, definitely. Horn players, we have to learn to play by ear, play by music, reading music, and do ear training. So all that stuff kind of played into part to becoming a better vocalist. And especially some of the jingle producers, they would write the music out. And I think I got a lot of calls back because I could read music.
Yeah.
I could go in there and, okay, we'll sing this. And after a couple takes, 30 minutes, we're out the door, you know.
Studio musicians are really pretty much a genius.
Yeah.
Norbert Putnam has become a good friend who was Elvis's bass player in RCA.
Yeah.
And he said that all of us, I'm not going to make him do that.
I'll do it.
Do you?
Actually.
Kathy held up a sign.
I've got one for you because I think I'm going to get you on this one.
Kathy just put up a sign that said, sing a jingle. So
I was sitting here thinking about that. So, okay. If you don't know this one, maybe you know the other one. But I haven't warmed up, so. Memphis light, gas, and water, we want you to know. That was me. They played that 5 million times. Unfortunately, I got paid once.
Yeah. That's the problem with those gigs. They pay you once and they
unless it's a national.
Never put it down.
Yeah, that's very true. That was a great question, though. I think I did another one that was played in Memphis all the time. Super D, the superstore, we take better care of you. Anyway, that was right. Right.
So it was Barry Manilow that made a career before he ever went out to do commercial music and on stage. And it was all jingles.
Writing jingles. Man, it takes a talent to do that. It really does.
Well, and with you still play with Just Us and other bands, but so many places you go, you bring your own equipment, you bring your sax.
Yeah, I do a lot of solo stuff. Probably about 50% of the time I'm playing solo gigs like the Thing at the Garden, events, weddings. As a matter of fact, bringing it back to the Peabody, which I love the Peabody. I have a Peabody story. So I was playing with my friend Gary Goen upstairs in the Continental Ballroom. And it was a wedding. We're singing with the band, and beginning of the night, we usually do some instrumentals and stuff. And then the first song the band leader calls is "What's Going On" by Marvin Gaye. So at this wedding, Justin Timberlake was there.
Oh wow!
Yeah, of course I'm a big fan of Justin Timberlake. He's awesome. I've met him a couple times, but this was the time when Justin had broken or done something to his foot. He had a cast or something on his foot. But this was one of his best friends. So he was here at the wedding. He was sitting in the back. They had this big centerpiece. And he's sitting behind the centerpiece, so we can't see him or anything. So I start singing, Marvin, Mother, Mother. And about 2 bars into it, here comes Justin leaning around the centerpiece to see who's singing. And it was just funny, the look on his face. Who is that boy up there singing?
Well, he recognized talent.
Yeah, so I got to meet him later, and he enjoyed it. And after we got into dance music and stuff, he came up by the stage, and he was getting into it. He wasn't dancing or anything, but he was clapping, having fun with his friends.
He's really a very talented person. I saw he produced this ESPN Awards thing he hosted a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
And he came up with wrote all the jokes, and he was incredible.
That's amazing.
He's a huge sports fan, and that was one of the best ESPN awards I've ever seen.
Really?
And it really made me realize how diverse he is.
Super talented.
Yeah, and he's a really nice person to all of his fans. I think his wife was instrumental in them moving to Nashville. I think he would have always wanted to stay here, but when the wife says we're moving, we're moving.
Go. That happened to me. I was living in Midtown. Yeah. Now I'm in Collierville. But I love it.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about earlier. It's quiet.
It's quiet out there.
It's a different thing.
And when Mama's happy, everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy. Yeah. That's right. That's right.
In your jingle years, in doing that, and you'd hear stuff, and do other people in the music world, they look down on? Is there levels of
No,
music?
I don't think so. I think that actually I know Grammy winners that do jingles. You know, they just get paid big bucks. You know, some of the national jingles like Coca-Cola, some other products, businesses, they'll do actual residuals, and
Wow.
you can make some big money. I had a guy that did I think it was the Ballpark Franks or something jingle, and he got paid for many years after
Wow.
that. Yeah, one of the Christian artists I played with and toured with for years.
I know you used to play at Hope. That's
Yeah, I
another
played at
place
Hope with Bruce Carroll. That's the person we're talking about. Learned a ton from him.
Milton Carroll has got to be a good friend of mine. I love Milton.
I love Milton.
He
He's
used
awesome.
to tour with Willie Nelson.
Yeah, right?
Believe that. And I said,
Gosh.
so what was Willie like to tour with? He went, "Can we talk?"
That's a whole nother show.
It really is. But Milton and his brother, both great musicians, great
Yeah.
people. And, but it's like anything else. Churches evolve and change. And so, it's...
Yeah.
But I miss all you guys being there.
Yeah.
And it's... where are you playing at a church now?
Yeah, actually, I'm at Fellowship Memphis here at Harding Academy. We meet there on Sundays at 10, and we've got a great band and great musicians, of course, and great. We've got a great new pastor, Pastor Justin, and it's just good to remember your roots and where you come from, and stay grateful.
A lot of people said to me over the years, did you ever want to go to the network and go that route to that level? And I had Charles Corral tell me, because I asked him that question, should I stay local or go? He said, well, if you go to the networks, you'll make so much money you can never quit. Your family won't let you quit.
Right.
But when you go to work with the networks, they really own you. You'll leave town to go to someplace, South Africa, Indonesia, wherever, and you get through that assignment. You don't get to go back to New York. You get to go to the next assignment. And you could be
Right.
gone a month,
Oh,
month
my
and a half.
gosh.
And he said, so if you want a regular life, I would advise staying local. You get to do what you're doing, is being on television and the news. And if you're good at it, you'll enjoy that. And then you get to have a regular life
Get to
and
have a
make
life.
friends.
Yeah.
And so is that one reason you stayed in Memphis?
It is. It is. Looking back on it, sometimes, you have opportunities you see that you could have missed or whatnot. Oh, gosh, should have went on this tour. I should have did this or did that. And then I look back at it and I'm like, well, I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't have the family I have now. I wouldn't have the life I have now, When I got to Memphis and settled down, this is something you guys don't know. I really got into a routine, and I had my days open except for doing jingles. So I walked into a karate studio in Midtown and started practicing martial arts.
Wow.
And I've been doing that, teaching that for the last 35 years.
So when people say, he really kicks ass, you really kick ass.
Yeah, well, I try these days. Most of the time I'm just trying to keep up.
Well,
but
it's great exercise.
Yeah, it is
Just
fantastic.
the routine. I went with my brother-in-law. He took from Kangaroo.
That was my first teacher here in Memphis.
I went to one warm-up, and after the warm-up, I went, whew, that was a tough workout. And my brother-in-law goes, that's just the warm-up,
We're
Earle.
just getting started, buddy.
I'm going to just slip out the door here. But
Yeah.
everybody that takes, I think it's great physical workout. And in the meantime, you can learn to defend yourself.
Yeah.
And really not even defend yourself. When people, like you're in crowds and stuff, and you learn to use your legs, your arms, and
It's a mental thing,
just moving
too.
people out of the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And when they realize that you're really moving them, and they go, whoa, but you didn't hit them. You're just moving things.
You know when to be not like, who was it, Mr. Miyagi?
Yeah.
Said, best block, no be there. So that's really absolute truth. I've worked for years and years on Beale Street, never had any problems. Just you start to get a feeling, it's like a spidey sense,
It's a sense.
and you remove yourself from situations like that. Now, of course, I can, if my family was there, somebody I need to defend, I would absolutely use my martial arts. But for this, it's been exercise, mental fortitude. Just the mental side of it is huge too, and the balance with music, because as you know, musicians, when we get into music, it's really hard to have that healthy balance.
Mm-hmm.
It's late nights. It can be, just incredible, like tour schedules that don't include sleep, and without some kind of thing to balance that out, it's very, very hard.
We had David Beaver on earlier this week, along with Tommy Cathy.
Oh, yeah.
And we were talking about the influences, especially in your early years, of the band life, the nightlife, the bars.
Crazy.
And I'm sure you have many friends that aren't here today because they succumbed to that lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that helped you make it through those years?
It literally was martial arts. It was, absolutely. I got into the lifestyle. I was like, I don't want to drink because I don't want to have a hangover tomorrow when I go to class. It was nice because we had day classes, and it just kept me on that straight and narrow that I needed. It was the self-discipline. It was, that healthy mindset of eating good and keeping, getting a good amount of sleep. Of course, I missed out on some things, as far as like rubbing elbows with people after gigs were over. But I feel like,
But you rubbed elbows with them when you were performing.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and believe me, the conversations deteriorate after a few cocktails.
Tremendously.
Do you also watch your diet? I mean, is that part of your regime?
Yeah, I do. I have for a very long time. I watch my diet pretty much. Try to keep the exercise at a premium, and try to keep the diet. I go through different things, but I eat a lot of salads and a lot of vegetables and stuff like that, and fruit and stuff like that. So,
my brother-in-law, who was talking about, he does these smoothies. Is that what they call them?
Smoothies. I love smoothies.
It's green stuff that he grinds up.
I don't do the green stuff.
And I'm going, you going to drink that? He goes, oh, it's great, man. It'll make you feel better. He said, are you going to eat that? And I'm having a sausage and biscuit. I said, yeah, look great, feel great.
It feels great.
But it really, because when you got to go perform, you have to go perform. And you're standing up and moving the whole time.
You can get your energy from different sources. And if you can get your energy from good sources, it's much healthier, when you find that. Because, that type of energy that it takes, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, and maybe they do, but I feel like it's something that musicians just feel. When you go up there for 4 hours and do a gig, or even 3 hours and do a gig, or you're Justin Timberlake and you're on for 2 hours solid with no break, you come off stage, it's like working 8 hours.
Yeah.
It is a mental and physical drain like you just can't explain.
Yeah.
And I've got friends that tour right now that I don't know how they do it. They play till, they might be the headliner and they play till 11 o'clock. And then they've got a 4 a.m. lobby call to go to the next city, and it's like, when do you sleep?
Even people that have been on the road for 20 years, singing the same songs that there were hits, and they still make it look fresh, and it's fun to watch them and listen to it, but you do have to wonder, how do they keep that up and keep doing it year after year after year? I'm sure you have young people come to you and say, thinking about getting into music business or make it a life's job. What do you tell them?
Well, I say do it because you love it first. You have to love it. You have to love it. You can't do it because of a way of making music, of making money. You can't just think about playing music as a gig. You've got to do it because you love it, because it's going to be up and down. There's going to be seasons. There's going to be times like COVID when music goes away.
Yeah.
You're going to go through times when, you may not be as popular as you were the year before, or the 2 years, or the 5 years before, or gigs run out,
Musicians get older.
Yeah, we get older.
It's a thing, and it happens in Hollywood with the actors. Nobody wants to get older. And then you see in the music biz, you see all these young people getting all the Grammys and everything.
Yeah.
But then you see these older people that still draw 5,000 people, 10,000 people.
Yeah, like one of your guests, Larry Dotson.
Yeah.
We just hooked up just a few months ago, and Larry's decided to get back out on tour.
Which I think you should, man.
We are working together, and it's awesome. We're loving it.
And the thing about, and we talked about it in that show, is that he thought he was ready to retire. But once you get used to performing and going on stage and feeling the adrenaline rush, I mean,
There's
never
nothing
changes.
like it.
It never changes. I don't care how much older you get.
There's nothing like it.
I still got it.
He's still got it, though.
He does.
He does. He's awesome. I love him.
Where can people see you now? I know you mentioned your church.
Yeah, I'm at Villa Castriati in Lakeland some Fridays. You can see me out there. Just check their schedule. I'm doing the Barquets with Larry Dotson. I think we do have a show the end of June here in Memphis, so it'll be well advertised, And then I have a Sunset Jazz on the Square. That is October.
In Collierville?
No, here, downtown
Okay.
Square.
Court Square. Okay.
Court Square. Jazz at Court Square on October 12th.
Okay.
I'm going to bring a little quartet and play some jazz out on the square, and it's going to be great.
And your album that's out, where can they get that?
Yeah, that's all your streaming services. For All We Know is the name of it, and got some great songs on there. There's 3 or 4 songs I wrote during COVID, and it's the Justice Brothers, contemporary jazz. Actually, one of the songs, Wendy Moten, that we played with she started at Captain Bilbo's with me.
Yes. I'd heard that, but I never could find anybody could confirm it.
So she had just been on The Voice and just killed it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had this idea for a song. It was a Bruce Hornsby. That's just the way it is. And I
love Bruce Hornsby.
I texted her. I said, Wendy, would you consider singing this with me? She was like, heck yeah, this is great. Send me the track. And we put together a kind of a jazz version of that. And actually that song was for consideration for a Grammy. And unfortunately, the Grammy business is kind of
politicized.
Yeah, it is a bit like that. A week before voting, they changed our category to R&B from jazz because Wendy was singing on there.
And she's more R&B?
But she's not.
No.
So they have a listening panel in Los Angeles, doesn't know anybody, and Wendy has a jazz album. She's got all kinds of different stuff. Soul, and so,
But the thing is, taking the possibility of getting a Grammy away is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes
it's a disappointment.
Huge,
for sure.
To say the least. You said you never went on one of those kind of shows like America's Got Talent? Or?
I didn't. I kind of felt like I missed my age bracket at that time, but my wife is still like, you need to go on there. You need to go on there.
You sing great, you play
you.
great, and I think when people see people, and they've had, we watched all of those shows, and you see somebody come along that everybody think, well, he's kind of old, then you see them perform, you go, wow, you still got it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you should do it. I agree with your wife.
I'm hanging in there.
Well, all it can do is say no.
That's right.
And you've heard that before, so
that's right.
Warmed up to that.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Well, Pat, I really appreciate you coming on. I think people.
Oh man, thank you for having me. It's been great.
One of the things I want to do is let people know who the great people of Memphis are. And I think you're one of the great people of Memphis.
Thank you so much.
You contribute so much to life here, which music is a huge part of life.
It is.
And you're so involved in so many different facets of the community. And there's so much more to you than being able to play the saxophone and sing. And so this is a format we can do that, and I wanted to do that with you.
Thank you so much, Earle. This is a great opportunity. I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely welcome. That is our show for today. I want to thank everybody at the Peabody Hotel and Lansky's for allowing us to do this here, and my guest, Pat Register, for being in today. We'll see you next time.